I found an old family photo and noticed someone who should not have been there, and at first it thought it was just a mistake. The picture was tucked inside a dusty photo album I discovered while helping my parents clean out the attic. It looked like a normal family gathering from years ago. Everyone was there, my parents, my grandparents, my uncles, aunts and cousins, standing together in the backyard, smiling for the camera, during what appeared to be a summer barbecue. I almost turned the page without thinking twice, but something about the image made me stop. I looked closer and noticed Ammon standing near the edge of the group, half hidden behind my grandfather. He was smiling just like everyone else. I had absolutely no idea who he was. That alone was strange because my family has never been very large. I knew every face in those albums, or at least it thought I did, but this man was a complete stranger. He was not young enough to be one of the cousins and not old enough to be part of my grandparents' generation. He looked like he belonged there, and yet I had never seen him before in my life. I carried the photo downstairs and showed it to my mot, here expecting a simple explanation, maybe a family friend or a neighbour who happened to be visiting. But the moment she saw the picture, her expression changed. She took the photo from my hands, stared at it for several seconds, and then quietly asked where, if I found it. Told her it was in the attic. Instead of answering my question, she slipped the photo back into the album and tried to change the subject. That only made me more curious. Later that evening, I showed the same photo to my father. His reaction was even stranger. He looked uncomfortable, almost nervous and immediate. I said it was getting late and we could talk about it another time. Now, I knew something was wrong. The next few days, I became obsessed with finding out who the mystery man was. I searched through every photo album in the house looking for him again. Eventually, I found 3 more pictures from different years. He was in every single one, standing near family members, smiling at birthdays, holidays and celebrations as if he belonged there. Yet somehow nobody had ever mentioned him. When I finally confronted my parents together, they exchanged a long silent look. For me, mother sighed deeply and sat down. She told me the man in the photographs was my uncle. I laughed because I thought she was joking. I knew all my uncles, but she shook her head. No, she said, not those uncles, your other uncle whom suddenly felt smaller. She explained that years before I was born, her older brother had left home after a major family conflict. Nobody liked talking about what happened because the argument had divided the entire family. Relationships were damaged, feelings were hurt, and eventually he disappeared from everyone's lives. For years, Odik knew where he went. Some family members tried to find him while others refused to speak his name. As time passed, the silence became permanent. New generations were born, including me, and gradually people stopped mentioning him altogether, not because they forgot him, but because talking about him reopened old wounds. I sat there stunned. How could an entire person be erased from family conversations for decades? Then I asked the obvious question. What was the argument about? My parents looked at each other again. My father finally answered. The truth was much less dramatic than I expected. It started over money, inheritance, misunderstandings and pride, a series of mistakes that grew bigger with every passing year until nobody remembered how the conflict began, only that everyone was angry. What shocked me most was realizing how something so ordinary had destroyed a family. One argument had erased an entire branch of my family tree. I asked whether anyone knew where he was. My mother quietly admitted she had received a letter from him years earlier. He was alive, healthy, and living in another country, but contact had faded. Over time that night, I could not stop thinking about the man.